there are tremendous benefits to an organization like Health Sciences North, which is a academic health science center in Sudbury, Ontario. Our affiliated medical school is the Northern Ontario School of Medicine. We're the major hospital for Northeastern Ontario. This hospital, this organization couldn't function without IHPs. There are rare departments that haven't had successful recruitment of an IHP and haven't benefited from it. There's a whole bunch of moving parts. There's graduating physicians and or other credentialed professionals like nurse practitioners or dentists that we need to recruit in order to satisfy the needs of our clients, our patients. There are multiple barriers. I mean, we're a resource-rich yet resource-finite organization. We need to make sure that we're lean in our production. So that's one of the challenges. I can imagine we're amongst the most complex organizations with respect to hiring, and then even the hire has some nuances to it. Perhaps a physician trained in another province or another country needs to get licensure in this province. There are several different paths to get licensure, and so those specialists that we use in an integrated model are required to help us navigate all of that complicated legislative requirements. Even though we're a regional health center, we're an academic health science center, we're one of the newest, or in fact the newest kid on the block. And so our piece of the pie, so to speak, when it comes to academics is different than well-established academic health science centers. And so we need to make sure that we establish ourselves in that game, so to speak. And so that represents another challenge. We're remote. We're certainly not remote as some other northern communities. There's good highways and good connections, but for some people, and when you look at where people train, the vast majority of people don't train in Northern Ontario, although we do now have probably bar none the most successful vehicle, and that is a Northern Ontario School of Medicine. The premise being if they train in the North, they'll stay in the North, and that promise has held true. And so it's a bit of a flyer to move up to Sudbury or to move up to northern communities or serve northern communities, because it's different than being in Toronto or having the amenities of that cosmopolitan city. And so that's a struggle. And the socioeconomics of our region is such that we have a greater burden of illness. People aren't as highly educated. The incomes aren't as great. We have underserved segments of our population, either because of their remoteness or their history. We look at the Aboriginal community, and we have a higher percentage of Aboriginals in Northern Ontario that require different types of care or care that's culturally sensitive to their needs. This is a francophone area, and so there is certainly an asset if they're francophiles or francophones and can communicate with some of our patients in their language of choice. The biggest barrier, sometimes it's a bit of a shock, especially in Sudbury for IHPs, if they haven't been to a region like this, or they haven't seen snow, or they haven't been around truly four-seasoned area, or they haven't been in an area where there's not as much summer. So there's a whole bunch of moving parts. I'm sure it's not different than other jurisdictions. It's not dissimilar here, but they're very unique circumstances, all of which present their own unique challenges in recruitment, and they need consideration when we recruit someone in terms of having a positive effect on the end game and ensuring that we can deliver patient services. The recruits or the hiring that we undergo is complicated. It requires a lot of planning. Our only chance in any given period might be one or two specialists in a given area. There are some specialists that are in short supply. And it's also not uncommon that the spouse of that particular specialist may also be a physician, and so it's the coordination of an IHP that requires integration and facilitation between departments and with departments in order to satisfy both members. Some of the work that some of the doctors provide is very resource rich, and we may need to negotiate and facilitate their arrival with a department that may need to spread their resources around for another physician. Which in turn helps us, helps our patients, and helps with our succession planning. It's often just seeing what's available in the community with regards to that, that cultural diversity, and it's surprisingly there are very few northern communities that don't have the same background. Again, if you look at different jurisdictions across Canada, the history is rich in IHPs, and so it's connecting them to those networks. So it's really just making sure you articulate that, and communicating that to employers, the hospital, the clinics. There are a lot of ways you can look at integrating them into the community, like anything else across Canada, right? So creating creating that cultural setting, that mosaic, and tapping into not only the medical expertise, the recognized and certified medical expertise, but whatever they can bring as professionals and good citizens in the community. It's comfort, right? Comfort on both sides. It's comfort that the training is equivalent to what we get here, and it's comfort and understanding and acceptance of perhaps different language or culture, and creating comfort for families inside the milieu, inside not only the milieu of the hospital but also the community at large. When you look at the history of IHPs, then they tend to get recruited to small areas because the need and demand is greater. If the core or the large hospital is strong, that creates a network of recruitment for the smaller hospitals. We found that here, so it creates comfort, right? So, it creates comfort for recruitment in Timmins, North Bay, Sault Ste. Marie. Each of these small communities really needs to develop their own plan, but it's often in collaboration with their larger cities in the network, right? So yes, there's some competition, but we also want to see them be successful in their recruitment, because if they're successful in their recruitment, then as their patients get sicker and have higher needs, we know that we can move them back and forth. But these communities sometimes need to up the ante in terms of what they can do for attraction, whether it's supported office space or recruitment incentives, moving incentives. So it's a bit of a competitive game, but it's understanding what the hospital, what the community can bear. What I've found in those communities is it's really it goes beyond a hospital recruitment or a clinic recruitment. It's really a city recruitment. We're recruiting you to a lifestyle, to a city. We want to show you that we're good. You'll be well received in the community. We really, what they really want is to have healthcare close to home, and what we know is that that's the most effective way to deliver healthcare in the long term, right?